Hi everyone, I'm coming to you from my classroom. I felt that it was the most appropriate setting for this final concluding video because so much of my leadership philosophy and instructional coaching techniques are deeply rooted in my experience as a teacher. I believe that as teachers we are always learners, and ultimately everything we do is in service of student learning and improving education for students. I base the core of my leadership philosophy on relationships. I believe that when you know the people that you're leading, it allows you to have tough conversation. It allows you to be better in touch with the needs of the organization and what most appropriate supports and resources would bring out the best in those that you're leading. I think when you're a leader, it's all about actually who you're leading. It's not always about being at the front of the pack, but it's about being part of the pack and working with the people around you. My leadership philosophy places an emphasis on collaboration to learn from each other. We improve education by sharing and implementing research-based practices to help improve learning for students. I want to empower others to be their best selves by listening, trusting, and cultivating opportunities for others to take on leadership roles as well, to really build those leadership roles and skills in the people around me. And a lot of this philosophy is influenced by the work that I've done at my school, which is Design 39 Campus. So Design 39 Campus is a TK8 public school in Poway Unified School District. And just by looking at my classroom behind me, you can tell that it's kind of a non-traditional school in the way that it looks and in a lot of the things that we do here. So we're tasked with the idea of improving education and especially creating a model that could be applied to other public schools. So we kind of sum up the work that we do as a learner-centered lab school. So that means we're using research-based strategies, we're constantly prototyping, ideating, trying new things, reflecting on our practice, and trying to reach that ultimate goal of improving education. So we're coming into year 5. Today is actually our very first day of school for year 5, and we've kind of developed this collective vision around enduring learning with students through that lens of improving education. So we focus on developing knowledge, skills, and dispositions going beyond just the content standards, but also focusing on the student as a whole and those skills and dispositions that will help them be life-ready learners for the rest of their lives. We also bring in social emotional aspects to all of our classes and really focus on that whole child through their social emotional learning as well. With that lofty goal in mind of improving education and creating enduring learning, it was important to identify steps and concrete goals to work towards that vision. So I personally work in the middle school grade span, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers, and we collaborate together. When I was doing this course, I set specific goals that we could focus on as 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers. So as a 6, 7, 8 span, when I was thinking about what we need and when I was interviewing our school leaders and other teachers in this span, I narrowed it down to 2 areas. The first was how to help struggling students, and the second was how to show proof of learning, and those 2 are actually pretty deeply tied together. So one of our practices is also around using data to inform our instruction. So when we got our most recent standardized test scores back for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that was an important piece of data to inform these areas of need and the goals that we might set for this upcoming school year. So taking on the role of an instructional leader and thinking about how I might address those things using the context of my own school, I looked at the data, and about 25% of our students in any given grade in ELA or in mathematics weren't reaching grade level. They weren't demonstrating full content understanding, which is a pretty big chunk of students in any given class. So it's important to us to use the systems that we already have in place and to work together as professionals to implement interventions that reach these students and to really use that data to drive those interventions and to hopefully see improvement and progress in students. And we want to use the systems that we have in place to make sure those things are documented along the way. The second area of need was around proof of learning. So I touched on the idea that Design 39 is a non-traditional school in a lot of ways, and one of the ways we look to improve education is through how we assess. So it's awesome that we practice assessing students in a variety of ways and trying different methods of reaching students. However, a lot of parents were educated in a really traditional way. So they don't always understand what we're doing here, and it's our job to communicate where the student is at. So what I would coach my teachers through is how to show proof of learning in a way that the community can also understand. As an instructional leader, I believe in empowering those around me. So when it came to addressing those two areas of need that I identified from interviewing my school leaders and from having been at this site for 2 years, I kind of based my strategies around providing the sandbox for teachers and then allowing them to work within it. I think when they have ownership of the work they're doing and the goals they're setting, they're much more successful. One example of providing this sandbox is with proof of learning. So when we identified that a problem was that parents were confused about the progress of their students, we dedicated 2 times a year to formal grade reporting. So that's at the semester mark and at the end of the year. So those are 2 formal times where teachers report grades home to families. And they have agency in deciding what that looks like, what that report card looks like, and what it actually demonstrates and what a student can do. And it assures that there are 2 times a year that there are formal reports. And then we're building out different systems and different structures in place for the first half and the second half of the year to make sure that that proof of learning is more consistent as we go through the year. It's also important to set aside time for teachers to collaborate. Another sandbox, per se, that could be set up is around the schedule. The schedule reflects what we value, and if collaboration is an important part of my leadership philosophy, and I believe in the value that it has for a school, having time in the day to collaborate is absolutely essential. The way that this looks for my school and in my vision of leading a school is an hour every single morning for teachers to collaborate. And that time is sacred and it's dedicated to student learning in whatever configuration teachers feel is most appropriate. And then things like prep happen during the day and after school, so that is separate from the collaboration time. Another way to support teachers, specifically in the role of an instructional coach, is to give them opportunities for professional development and self-reflection. So some of the strategies that I would implement as an instructional coach are giving the teacher opportunities to videotape themselves and reflect on those lessons, setting their own goals for next best steps while also reflecting on what went well. Then, using my expertise to provide research-based practices and resources that the teachers could use, which could also include workshops and observations of colleagues outside of the classroom day. It might be conferences during the summer or when we have professional development days at school, but really getting to know the teacher to see what they need and to see what they want to work on. Using this targeted instructional coaching and setting aside an hour of collaboration time every day to design learning experiences for students translates directly into more success for students. We use this time to analyze student work and evaluate data, and that translates to increased focus on student achievement and attention to detail in what every student needs. When teachers are collaborating, it's also a model to students about the value of collaboration, and it's a reminder that we also practice what we preach when we ask students to work with one another, which is such an important skill that they're going to need when they leave the classroom and eventually enter the workplace. This course has been the complete foundation for my development as an instructional leader. All of my experience in education so far has been from an educator standpoint in the classroom as a teacher with students. While I love that perspective and I think it is so important to the work that I would do as an administrator, it's important to see a different perspective, and that's one of the reasons why I was so excited about this course. Specifically, it made me much more reflective and self-aware of my tendencies as an instructional leader. One of the most valuable modules in this course was when I was able to notice how I'm an accidental diminisher. I definitely tend to have a loud voice in meetings, and I think it's really important that I notice that and stand back and listen sometimes. I also tend to have the feeling that if I want something done, I'm just going to do it myself, which doesn't always instill trust in the people around me. So those ideas of listening and trusting to empower others were 2 of my huge takeaways and set a really important foundation in my leadership philosophy as well. Not only did this course give me opportunities to improve my work as a teacher, it helped me develop and consider what my work might look like as an administrator. There were some similarities to the culture that I worked to develop in my classroom, but this is the first time I was really able to consider myself as a role leader. I was able to consider scenarios based on my own school site, which was so relevant and so helpful. My administrator actually even asked me for my needs assessment and action plan, and then I could develop concrete plans and share those with the people that I'm already working with. This gave me an opportunity to have thoughtful reflection into the kind of leader I want to be and what I would prioritize specifically at my school site. So I'm excited to apply this to the school year and continue to develop my skills as a leader.